exemplary punishment for those who deny the genocide. Ambassador Vincent Karega has called on employees of the Rwanda Revenue Authority and the Office of the Auditor General to actively fight against the genocide ideology. On the international scene, emergency services in the Dominican Republic are racing against time to find survivors after a deadly building collapsed at a popular nightclub in Santo Domingo. My name is Olive Nathan. It's always a great pleasure to have you with us. Now let's kick off the edition. And as we start this edition of the news, let us inform you that on Wednesday at Rugwiro Village, President Paul Kagame met with Daniel Julien, founder and CEO of Teleperformance, and Thomas Mackenbrock, Deputy CEO of the Teleperformance, one of the world's leading business processes outsourcing providers. Moving ahead, in Rubavu district, survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi have called for continued protection of genocide witnesses and exemplary punishment for those who deny the genocide. This was reiterated on during the 31st commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi held in memory of those killed at Nyundo and its surrounding areas. We have details.
April 7th, 9th and May 1st, 1994 are dates that Tutsi who had sought refuge at the Catholic Diocese of Nyundo, the Lycée Notre-Dame d'Afrique de Nyundo and the Petit Séminaire will never forget, as this is when Tutsi who fled in these places were brutally killed. Testimonies from survivors who were in various locations around Nyundo, such as inside the church, reveal that initially they tried to resist and repel the Interahamwe militia. However, when soldiers from the ex-FAR, former Rwandan armed forces, joined forces with the militia to break into the church, it became easier for them to massacre the Tutsi who had sought refuge there. Those hiding in the Petit Séminaire and at the Lycée were also not spared. Some priests and nuns were killed with the involvement of their fellow clergy members. Beata Mukamwiza, a survivor from Nyundo, shared her testimony how they were pursued in areas like Muhira and Gitebe. What happened is that they found us hiding there, and by that time, things had become very dangerous. They were tracking us down with dogs. There was an elderly woman among us who seemed more desperate than the rest, and they killed her immediately. After that, they started killing the others who were with us. When they got to me, I was one of the last. They struck me on the head with a machete, and I fell to the ground. During the commemoration ceremony at Nyundo, genocide survivors also emphasized the need to protect witnesses, as it has been noted that in the past, some were targeted for speaking out the role of certain members of religious institutions in the genocide. This was raised by Claudine Nyinawagaga, who represented families of genocide victims laid to rest at the Nyundo Genocide Memorial. I don't intend to reopen what has been gone long ago, but I cannot fail to mention that in the past, the Catholic Church often stood against us, especially when we spoke against priests. For instance, when people like Giovanni from Kabirigi spoke about the role of the priest Simba Edouard, the church would oppose them. However, we are grateful that things have changed. The truth is now acknowledged. The efforts continue to support survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. As the president of IWUKA highlighted, we appreciate all that is being done, and we continue to request the protection and security of survivors. The umbrella organization of genocide survivors, IWUKA, also called for severe penalties against those who distort history of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. The Minister of Defense, Juvenal Marizamunda, who joined local residents during the commemoration at Nyundo, reassured Rwandans that the country will never again be plunged into darkness. I'd like to point out that the efforts, capacity and determination that were used to stop the genocide against the Tutsi have multiplied countless times since then. I believe you also noticed this recently when some attempted to attack us. Their plans failed miserably. And even today, to anyone who dares to think of dragging us back into the darkness our country once went through, I'm confident and I believe you share the same mindset that we will never allow it. Instead, we will disrupt their plans before they even have a chance to act. During the ceremony, the body of a genocide victim recently discovered in Hora, Rutsiro district, was laid to rest in honor. Wreaths were also laid at the Nyundo Genocide Memorial, which holds the bodies of over 1,000 genocide victims. Additionally, more than 9,000 bodies were buried there from the Bigogwe Genocide Memorial, which is currently under renovation.
Moving ahead on other matters regarding commemoration activities around the country, during a ceremony to commemorate and honor the burial of 38 bodies of those killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, survivors from the Javana sector in Gasawa district stated that the painful history they endured does not define them, as they played a significant role in the struggle for unity and reconciliation and the country's development. The 38 bodies were buried alongside 295 others at the Javana Memorial Site. These bodies were previously buried by families in different locations, but after discussions with the relevant authorities, the decision was made to rebury them at the memorial site. Among those buried was the late Asteri Uzamukunda. Her body was found on the 3rd of this month in the land where she lived before the genocide, located in the Nyarurama village, Ugeramana cell, following information provided by a resident of the area. The families who reburied their loved ones expressed their joy at having their relatives' dignity restored. The president of Ibuka in Gasawa district, Eugene Kawagambire, praised the resilience of the Rwandan people and the genocide survivors, especially highlighting their role in the national unity and reconciliation. Meanwhile, the member of the parliament, Murumunawa Cecile, who joined the citizens, noted that those responsible for the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, along with those who shielded them, continue to spread genocide ideology around in the region. However, she emphasized that the unity of the Rwandan people is the weapon that will continue to defeat them.
We should stick to our unity because it has led us to many achievements in this country. It has enabled us to accomplish great things over the past 31 years. We must always remember that we bear a great responsibility in fighting the ideology of genocide, as well as the denial and negation of genocide, both in our country and in the region. We must fight for our survival, strive to live, remain self-reliant, and ensure that we will continue to live.
Genocide survivors from Javana sector, along with their friends, commemorate the Tutsi who were killed in the former Kawiye sector, Javana and Njiji, in what was Rutongo commune, where they had sought refuge at the Kawiye parish. Among those responsible for the killings were the then sub-prefect Barinda Teonest and the Interahamwe militias, including an individual known as Vianney, who was often referred to as Rutwe. Moving ahead, Ambassador Vincent Karega has called on employees of the Rwanda Revenue Authority and the Office of the Auditor General to actively fight against genocide ideology, especially as it continues to spread and take root in the region where Rwanda is located. Leaders and workers at the Rwanda Revenue Authority and the Office of the Auditor General joined Rwandans in commemorating the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in an event held at the Kigali Genocide Memorial at Gisozi. Kalisa Louise Ingabire, an employee at Rwanda Revenue Authority who was 9 years old during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, shared her testimony, recalling how Tutsi were persecuted before the genocide. She described an incident where, as an 8-year-old child, she was once prevented from going to the market simply because she was Tutsi. Kalisa Ingabire, in concluding her testimony, thanked the RPF in Motanyi and the country's leadership, but also urged parents to ensure that they raise their children without the influence of genocide ideology. The Auditor General Alex Kamuhire, speaking on behalf of the institutions involved in the commemoration, called on employees to confront those who continue to deny the genocide against the Tutsi. The Ambassador Vincent Karega, in his speech, highlighted how genocide ideology was sold by Belgium and continues to spread in the region surrounding Rwanda. The event was preceded by the laying graves at the Kigali Genocide Memorial at Gisozi, where the bodies of over 250,000 victims of the genocide against the Tutsi are buried. Still on commemoration activities, in Paris, France, a garden was inaugurated at the Lycée Blaise Pascal as part of the commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. This event was organized jointly by the Lycée Blaise Pascal School and Blue Lakes International School from the Bugesera district. The initiative aims to educate young people about the history of the genocide so that they can grow up with a clear understanding of it. One of the participants in this event was Jean-Pierre Mukwende, the director of the Blue International School, who highlighted that there is much that the children educated in these schools from both sides will learn that will help them. Still on the commemoration activities, Rwandan youths have been called upon to treasure the past and never forget it, and the call was made through various songs, poems and dialogues and testimonies from survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. This was during our past, where close to 8,000 young people attended. Inwari Christian, who is the founder and executive director of our past initiative, urges young people to use all resources at their disposal to fight against the genocide ideology in whatever form it manifests.
It's simple. We are not renting this country. You know, this country is not on rental. You know, this is our country. There is no way around it. So, love it or hate it, we are here and we are in this together. So, I want them to wake up. I want them to use the resources we have today. Those who came before us fought with no resources. Today we have the resources, and by the way, the genocide ideology is now online more than it's physical. So we need to take our narrative to them. We need to use the internet. We have the smartphones. We have any other resources we might need to fight the genocide ideology, either face to face or even online. So I think this is what, as the youth, we should think about. How can I contribute to what this amazing country is doing?
Young people also expressed their thoughts about this event, saying it's a good platform to learn from about the past.
In our past, there is singing songs, there's reciting poems, there's very many things which are not usually done in the normal Kwibuka process. So our past, that's why I feel like it's something special, and I think it's a very good initiative, and I think it's good for the youth. I go back with the fact that in this life, if we want to build our country, we have to be one. We have to be one. Like looking at this initiative, there's a lot of youth here, and the youth is the power of tomorrow. So that's why we believe that we have to be one to build our country and make it great again.
Our past initiative is happening for the 14th time and has a mission to bridge the generational gap by bringing together young people and elder Rwandans to share stories, preserving Rwanda's history and helping the young generation connect deeply with their roots. Moving ahead, Rosalinda Wanyirijuru, who believes that she was born in the city of Kigali, has been searching for her relatives for the past 31 years. Although she was told that all her family members were killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, she continues to appeal to anyone who might recognize her or know her story to help her find out if any of her relatives are still alive. Enora Gladys has a detailed story.
She's now 31 years old and says that those who raised her took her from an orphanage. When talking about her origins, she refers to the information she was given by the person who raised her.
My adoptive parents told me that during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, my family was killed, and then they found me at the orphanage and raised me. My guardian told me to accept things as they are and wait until I grew up to ask about where I come from. He also encouraged me to settle down, focus more on my studies, and improve my life, because there was nothing else he could do about it. At that time, she was told that she arrived at the Red Cross orphanage in Kacyiru, Kigali, when she was only 2 months old, and left there when she was 3 years old. The family who raised her told her that they didn't know anyone else she was related to. Living without knowing her origins is still very painful for her. Actually, not knowing my origins or even where my family lived is difficult for me. I hear others talk about it in their testimonies, but for me, it's a different story because I don't know anything about it. I don't even have anyone to blame for not coming to visit me at school or being by my side while I grew up. It's very painful for me. Often when she speaks, she mentions details she believes could help others identify her relatives, hoping that this might lead to someone who recognizes her. This gives her hope that some members of her family might still be out there. I believe that not all of them were killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. There must be someone, maybe even two, from my family who survived. I have a birthmark on my forehead, and perhaps there are people who know they had a baby with this birthmark. Even at the Red Cross orphanage, they told me I had it when I first arrived. Maybe they can help me find my relatives or assist in the search for my family, especially people in Italy and the diaspora, to see if I can meet any of my family members. Although the situation remains as it is, Rosalinda says she has hope for the future. Thanks to the support she has received from the government, she is now stable and appreciates the help provided by the authorities.
ariko nanone sindi wa muntu wumva ko nyine byarangiye burundu ntacyo.
No matter what happened to me, even though I was overwhelmed with sadness, I struggled to study and work hard to even have my own land. Though I don't know where I belong, I believe that one day I will even have my own family.
One day nzubaka inzu, one day nzagira umuryango.
Rosalinda says that after gaining strength to tell her story she has lived with for 31 years, she's hopeful of finding relatives, even though she now appreciates the family she has found through love and good governance of the country. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
Now to Rwanda's economic sector. Rwanda has announced that trade with the United States will not be significantly affected despite President Donald Trump's decision to raise tariffs to 10% on all imports from all countries, including Rwanda. Adam Squizera has more on this.
Chinese goods faced the highest tax increase, rising to 104%. In response, China imposed retaliatory tariffs of up to 84% on goods imported from the United States. This was named trade war between China and US. The Minister of Trade and Industry, Prudence Sebahizi, explains that this presents an opportunity for Rwanda to attract new investors from countries that have significantly raised their tax rates.
This U.S. policy, this U.S. trade policy that is imposing a reciprocal tariff on other countries, you can call it trade war, but it's international trade policy of the U.S., and it is affecting all countries trading with the U.S., though in different proportion. Of course, China is among the countries that will be most hit because tariff that will be imposed on China's product is the highest, among others. And Rwanda is one of the countries that will not be that high affected because the tariff that will be imposed on Rwanda is the lowest, 10%. which mean that products coming from Rwanda will continue to enjoy the U.S. market and will continue to be competitive on the U.S. market. Secondly, this policy was targeting countries which have a trade surplus with the U.S., and Rwanda is not among those countries that have trade surplus. So we don't see any challenge with the products that go to U.S. Coming from Rwanda. They will continue to be treated more favorably compared to other similar products coming from other parts of the world.
Rwanda currently exports a variety of products to the United States, mainly agriculture goods such as coffee, tea, vegetables, fruits, and flowers, as well as minerals and other commodities. Rwanda's exports to U.S. increased last year compared to the previous year, reflecting a positive trend in trade relations between the two countries. In 2024, Rwanda exported approximately 3.5 tons of goods to the United States, valued more than $23 million, a notable increase from 2023, when about 3 tons worth of more $18 million were exported. However, re-exported to the U.S. saw a decline in 2024. Rwanda re-exported around 70 tons of goods, valued to more than $420,000, compared to 50 tons, worth of $591,327 in 2023. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
Now to the international scene. Emergency services in the Dominican Republic are racing against time to find survivors after a deadly building collapsed at a popular nightclub in Santo Domingo. The roof caved in during peak hours, leaving at least 58 people dead and more than 150 others injured. Al Jazeera has details.
A night of music and dancing in a Caribbean capital quickly transformed into a tragedy. The popular entertainment venue reduced to ruins, killing many and leaving others trapped under the rubble. Emergency services rushed to the scene and the search for survivors began. Dozens of ambulances ferried the injured to hospital. The scale of the collapse became clear as the sun rose, and relatives clamored for news of their missing loved ones as authorities issued a call for Dominicans to donate blood.
Our government continues working in the search and rescue of people who are still trapped under the rubble. We have reached people who are alive.
Among those announced dead was the governor of Monte Cristi Municipality, Nestle Cruz, who succumbed to her injuries in hospital. Arriving at the scene, President Luis Anenada hugged those waiting for news.
Since last night, we've been following minute by minute this tragedy so that all the resources and government emergency institutions can be available. But we still have a way to go. We have faith in God that we will rescue even more people.
The cause of the incident is not yet known. The owners of the nightclub say they're cooperating with authorities. Flags across the Caribbean nation will be flown at half-mast as authorities continue their search for survivors. Joel Evans, Al Jazeera.
Moving ahead, the paramilitary rapid support forces are launching attacks near Sudan's capital despite being ousted from the city center. Fighters have located dozens of villages and killed residents just south of Khartoum. Al Jazeera once more.
Homeless and dejected. These people have just been forced from their homes south of Omdurman. They are being sheltered in a mosque by a local charity, and they recount stories of violence and killing by the paramilitary rapid support forces.
The RSF descended on us from the mountain in huge numbers on Wednesday. They ravaged every village on their way.
The attacks began immediately after the Sudanese army managed to drive RSF fighters out of Khartoum a couple of weeks ago.
We were asleep when they broke into the house and started beating us with sticks and whips and stabbing us with daggers. One of them tried to slit my throat, but his colleague stopped him.
He says the attackers killed 2 of his cousins a bit later.
They came at 9 in the morning, asked us to hand them any money, gold, or mobile phones. I told them we have none. That's when they started beating everyone.
Abdus Samad's arm was broken by the attackers, making matters worse for him as his hands were already mutilated in a previous accident. For 2 years, Jamouiyya was part of the territory controlled by RSF. The residents say RSF used to mistreat them, but never this badly. They say the fighters who committed the recent attacks are a new breed.
These people look different from the RSF forces we are used to seeing. These are Southerners and African Chadians. Their speech is extremely ugly and they don't spare anyone or anything.
Actually, these are the lucky ones who've managed to escape. The horror stories they relate are nothing compared to the hundreds who were killed in cold blood and the many who are still stranded and cut off from their loved ones.
The disaster has struck the entire southern countryside of Omdurman, about 52 villages. The real death toll has exceeded 600. Communication is often impossible as the attackers made sure to first steal people's mobile phones. As to the displaced, around 1,000 made it to our place here, and many more are on the way.
Jamouiyya's leaders say they're mounting a local resistance, but they need support. The army has been shelling RSF positions and says it's been sending weapons and military trainers. Still unclear, however, why the army hasn't launched a major ground offensive against RSF in an area that makes part of Greater Khartoum. Mohammed Fall, Al Jazeera, Omdurman.
And the story brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin, but before we leave, a reminder of the top stories that made the edition. In Rwanda district, survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi have called for continued protection of genocide witnesses and exemplary punishment for those who deny the genocide. Ambassador Vincent Karega has called on employees of the Rwanda Revenue Authority as well as those from the Office of the Auditor General to actively fight against the genocide ideology. On the international scene, emergency services in the Dominican Republic are racing against time to find survivors after a deadly building collapsed at a popular nightclub in Santo Domingo. That marks the end of today's bulletin. Thank you for staying with us. Our prayers are with the survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Good night. Stay safe.